Hey, Jeri-Ashley. Hold on. I gotta play this. He must be on the screen. You hear that? Yes, welcome back. You know this song? Maybe like you know, or you think let's go, Jeri-Ashley. Welcome back, you guys. Welcome back to Growing in Gentleness. Look, I didn't want that on the screen, but it was not letting me play it without putting it on the screen. So there it was. Hi, Jeri-Ashley. How are you?
Hello, Elise. I am fantastic. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited. As you know, growing in gentleness took like a 3 week pause. And so I'm excited to be back. And you are the first guest
Yes.
post the pause, the divine pause. I'm super excited to jump into this conversation. But first, let me welcome everyone who may be tuning in or catching this replay. If you are, let us know you're here. And if you are catching the replay, go ahead and hashtag replay in the comments. But for those who may be new, welcome to Growing in Gentleness, a weekly conversation for the gentle or not so gentle parent or caregiver. Really quick, I'm gonna jump on here because sometimes this does not show the comments unless I edit the privacies. Let me do that. Just in case, people want to ask you something, Jerry
Yes. Oh,
Ashley.
I love that. Yes.
All right.
Excited
But
for everything.
today, I'm so excited to welcome Jeri-Ashley to this space to just share with us. I shared a little bit of her bio online in the description. But Jerry, I just want to open the floor for you to just share a little bit about yourself before we jump into this topic. We got to tell her how we met also and even how this topic came about. But go ahead, Jerry, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So, Jeri-Ashley Bremer, I am a mama to multiples, a bonus mama, an educator, a community advocate, and a what I feel is one of my favorite titles right now is a mindfulness and parenting expert. So I have been working with students, with kids, with families, with educators for over 10 years. And it's so over 10 years professionally. I have been doing this kind of work, if, believe it or not, since I was a teenager. Someone, when I was probably about 15 years old, told me, I believe in you and let me be in charge of, I went to a mega church growing up, let me be in charge of the toddler space for one of the services at my church. So it was multiple classes full of children that I was in charge of supervising and leading about 15 years at about 15 years old. So I've been working with kids and families since a very, very young age for over half of my life. And I'm so excited to be here joining in this conversation, to be sharing my wisdom, to be answering questions. And also in this space, I like um, to let people know that I am also very humble, because being a parent, although I am a parenting expert, uh, things it's crazy because our kids, no child is the same. No two children are the same. No family dynamics are the same. So although I'm an expert in this field, I am also very much aware that what works with my child might not work with your child. What works in this situation might not work in that situation. And so in this space, I think it's also important to acknowledge that we are continuously growing and evolving as individuals, as parents, as experts in this field, because we learn more and we grow with that process.
Absolutely. I definitely say the same because, like, we are always still learning and evolving, right? And even with my work, I call it a practice, similar how doctors call it a practice,
Yeah.
lawyers call it a practice. Why? Because we are continuously evolving. Also, we're practicing
Yeah.
and putting the techniques, into action as we continue to learn, also. So I love that. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, let's tell the people how we met.
Ooh, I love this story. So we met through Dr. G, Dr. Kristen Guillory. If you have not met her, she is a vibe. She is fantastic.
Yes.
And we met because she's like, oh, you know what? There is someone else in the parenting space as well that I would like you to connect with. Go find her on Facebook. And then we met in person, what, 2 weeks ago?
It's been 2 weeks. Yes.
Has it been 2 weeks? It's been 2 weeks at a retreat that Dr. G was hosting, and um, I don't know. I'm going to say we instantly connected.
Yes.
I instantly connected with you.
Yes, I definitely agree. And the same, right, Dr. G? Like, you need to meet her, reach out. She's on Facebook. And then it was such a pleasure to finally connect. And then we found out we actually went through the same certification program, even when it comes to our parenting, coaching certification. So that was a trip within itself, too. So I was like, yes, sis. Such an honor to meet you. And then as we were talking, I was sharing with her um just these different ideas I've been playing with as it relates to these controversial conversations. It was just sharing some of the topics that I've been kind of feeling led to write down and look into. And then as we were talking, Jeri-Ashley was like, you know what? Another good one is like conversation we need to have of what if your child is not the issue? What if your child is not the problem? And listen, I'm here for it. And I'm just gonna get this disclaimer before we jump into it. Like, we're not here to step on no toes. Okay, that's not the goal. That is not the goal. That is not the goal. However, it may happen. And that's okay because this space is again for the parent who desires to continue to grow and evolve. And it includes us. I'll be the first one to raise my hand, right? And sometimes that takes having those uncomfortable conversations, those self-reflective conversations, so we can make sure we are an active contributor to our parenting journey in a way that's beneficial for us and our children, right? And so when she said that, I was like, yes, sis, come on, let's talk about it. Come on, when can you be when can you join the live so we can talk about it? So before we jump into that in particular, tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Like, what led you to this path of becoming a parenting coach?
Oh, so I grew up in a very traditional Hispanic household that was also very religious, and not in Catholicism, but I grew up in a Pentecostal home, which if you are a Pentecostal, Baptist, Church of God, and anything that falls under that, the dynamics of that. So the intersection of the two, there were a lot of common themes. So children are to be seen and not heard. If you are a wife, a woman, a mother, you are the one who should be submissive. You should do the, X, Y, and Z. And so I grew up in a home where my voice as a child wasn't really valued. My voice as a person in general wasn't valued, not just as a child. My voice as a person wasn't really valued. My boundaries weren't respected. I don't want to even say lucky, but I guess like lucky in the sense that we didn't have a lot of, I got spanked a couple of times. And after a while, I was like, ooh, I don't really care for this. And then there came a point where there was a lot of emotional and mental abuse and neglect. And I don't blame my parents for that because, I think we're all just trying to do the best that we can. And sometimes in parenting, and if you're a parent, you probably realize that there are things that come up for you that you were not prepared for, that you were not aware of, that you didn't even know would be coming up. And so I think that's kind of what happened. A lot of things came up for my parents that they were unaware of, they didn't know. And sometimes they came out in the forms of not so kind words. And so being in that space and kind of growing up in that, I had this realization that I don't think it's supposed to be this way. Like, I know this is normal in my home and I see a lot of my friends being treated similarly, but this can't be it. This can't be it. And when I graduated from college, I worked at a children's shelter, a residential treatment center, and to see what those babies went through, these were kids anywhere from the ages of 5 to 12, to see what they went through, I was like, you know what, this can't be it. This can't be it. We cannot be raising a generation of kids that are going through this. We need support for parents. And so there is a lot of support out there for parents with younger kiddos to prevent adverse childhood experiences. And that is great and that is beautiful. But there are two things that happen. Kids, families slip through the cracks. And so some parents and families don't get that support that they need while their kids are young. And number two, our kids evolve and they turn into preteens and teenagers. And that is not the same as parenting a toddler, school age child, and the support falls off. And so when I, in my various experiences and roles working in different communities, I saw these things, and this culmination just made me say, it can't be, it can't be like this. We cannot be letting people slip through the crack. We cannot be letting this happen to our kids. We have to be doing something more. I have to be doing something more. And so this kind of led me to a place where I saw this gap in the numerous communities that I worked in. And although I love, I love my younger kiddos, and I love doing work with parents of younger kids because it's hard, and I do a lot of work with them. My heart really truly lies in working with parents of older kiddos, because like I had mentioned, that's where the support falls off. And so when I identified that gap and I started reaching out to organizations in my community and having conversations with other parents, like, yeah, there really is no support. Yes, we see this need too. And so that really is what led me into to going all in this space.
Yes, I love that. Identify the gap and then ask the question, how can I help fill it? Right. I love that. And that is so true. My work was for many years in the middle school setting. And that is, and like literally that setting is what pushed me to focusing on parents, because at that age gap, like you named, like it is so necessary, right? And the support there is not as prevalent. And so thank you for your work, Jeri-Ashley. So necessary. And I'm glad that that path push you towards this purpose. Like as you know, as you guys may not know, is it down here? It's not, but it's in the description. Jeri is also known as the mindful mama. And so she works a lot with mothers when it comes to mindfulness. And so let's talk about that when it comes to this topic of what if your child is not the issue? Talk to me a little bit about your heart, even behind that particular topic.
Ooh, this is that's a hard pill to swallow. So I remember when I started actually working in education, there was this TED Talk by Rita Pierson, and one line will always stick out to me. She said, "Kids don't learn from people they don't like," and I was like, "Ooh, I like okay, I get that. I feel that." And this was I was brand new.
I need you to say that again. Say that line again.
Kids do not learn from people they don't like.
Yes.
And I was like, ooh, right. She was telling a story about how her mother was an educator, and another teacher had said something to her mother, and this was her. I think it was her mother, might have been her, but like was the response, was that kids don't learn from people they don't like. And it was about a child who was struggling in the class, but that she didn't have issues with. And that line really stuck with me, because I had, at that point, my experience in terms of an education setting had been with a group of students in New York City. And the group I had was very challenging. It was very, very challenging. And I loved every second of it. And I remember this teacher that a lot of the kids, they just didn't like them. They would skip his class. There were some like altercations. There's a lot. I won't get into it, but they didn't really learn from this man. They didn't learn from this man because they didn't like him. And so I saw firsthand the truth that kids do not learn from people they don't like. And so it led me to start reflecting and thinking, I wonder if it's not so much about the kids, because oftentimes we say like the kids, the students, if you're an educator, the students, well, they're unmotivated, they're this, they're ungrateful, they're rude, they're disrespectful, they're all these things, right? But when have we taken a second to pause and look at us, at what we're doing, at how we're running our spaces, our homes, our classrooms, whatever it is. And it's funny because I remembered a story from one of my high school teachers about how there was a student, it was my high school statistics teacher, and she told a story about, and I don't even know if she remembers this. She follows me on Facebook, so if you're here, hey Miss M, she follows me on Facebook, and this student that just struggled in another teacher's class, and this teacher would send him to her class, and my teacher would tell this other teacher, I don't really have problems with him. He does work. And she's like, I don't understand. Like, how do you do that? Like, he's just always popping off in my class, going off, doing this, doing that. And he's like, I mean, I just give him work that he feels like he can be successful with. And I just treat him like I would any of my other kids. I don't look at him like, oh, he's a problem child or behavior child, right? Like with the label
Mm-hmm.
that we oftentimes give kids. And so I'm piecing together kind of these stories and in my own experience, and I'm saying it's not the kids. It's never been the kids. It's
Mm-hmm.
been us. It's been fear that leads and guides our parenting in the wrong direction. It is negative narratives that we tell ourselves about our abilities as parents and about our kids, right? They're ungrateful, they're rude, they're disrespectful, they're this or that. Um, and we don't pause to take a step back and say, you're like, that audio, is it me? Am I the drama? Am I the problem? Right? Yes, it probably is you. It probably is you, and not in a negative way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not in a shame on you, like you should be full of guilt, but maybe you should take a step back.
Yes. And I love that. And we have a amen right here. It's been us, right? And I think it takes not just awareness, but a certain level of humility to be able to admit that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when there is a rupture, right, in my relationship with my kids, what part did I play in that? I love what you said about like what narrative are we telling ourselves, especially when it comes to what we believe about children.
Yeah.
Like you started off talking about in your own upbringing, how, you know, it was this, whether it was blatantly said or whether it was received based on, you know, how you were treated, this idea of you should be seen and not heard. Like we have these beliefs of children, which impacts how we treat them, which impacts how they feel about themselves and feel about us, right?
Yeah.
And the quote of in the YouTube video, did she have like the red blazer?
Yep. She should.
Like,
did.
I love that video. Every child deserves a champion, I believe.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, and like that is so true. Like kids do not learn from people they don't like. And I think it's important. Can you speak to this a little bit, Jeri-Ashley? Because I don't want us to get it twisted and think, oh, I have to, like, it's not a people pleasing type of thing, or making your or trying to get your child to like you at the detriment of teaching them, right, and disciplining them. So can you speak to that? Because I can see how they can easily get misconstrued that, well, they gotta like, so it's like it's that mentality that, you know, people think as far as like, well, I'm not supposed to be my child friend, which if you've been following me, you know that yes, I am my children's friend, right? For a number of reasons, but not to get sidetracked on that in this moment. But can you speak to that, how our children liking us does not take away from being a parent and disciplining our children? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, definitely. So I think this is where we get it twisted. We don't, when we view our relationship with children, we view it as kind of what we call a power over dynamic. So I am the authority figure. You need to listen to me. You need to do what I say. And here's the thing, and this is where we get it twisted. It's a relationship. It is a parent-child relationship. At the core of it, it is just a relationship. I want you to pause right now and think about what's important in a relationship. What does a healthy relationship look like? Good communication skills. It looks like mutual respect, not one-sided respect, not you respect me. It looks like mutual respect. It looks like understanding and empathy. It looks like love in different forms, right?
Boundaries.
And it looks like healthy boundaries, right? Healthy boundaries. And, you know, that's a whole other conversation, because boundaries are like what we are and aren't willing to accept. It's not like you can't do this. It's what we are and aren't willing to accept, but that's for another day. No, it's healthy boundaries. It's a whole world of things. And we look at it through this very tiny, like microscopic lens of it's a power dynamic, is how many parents look at it. And it makes sense because that's how a lot of us grew up. We grew up in homes where it was a power dynamic, where the relationship was based off of control, right? Like our parents trying to control us, control the situation. And again, I don't blame them, because that's how a lot of our parents were raised, right? Like that was the dynamics in their homes. And so when we think about, right, our children liking us, they don't have to like you because you're the funniest person in the world or because you buy them all these things. Our kids want to be respected, shown the same respect that we demand of them. They just want to be respected. They want to be validated. dang, you're right. That does kind of suck.
Mm,
That must be really hard for you. She said what to you? I'm sorry, babe. That's awful. How do you feel? Right? They just want to be validated. They want to be
mm,
seen it like where they're at and their emotions and their experiences. They're not looking for all these crazy things, right? They're not looking for us to be their best friend. And I mean, if y'all are friends, that's okay, right? Like that's great, but they're not necessarily looking for all those things. They're just looking to be shown love and
mm,
understanding and empathy. And when we can do those things, when we can listen, when we can do those things, our kids are going to like us. They
yeah.
might not want to come and tell you absolutely everything, right? But they're going to listen.
Hmm.
So I can tell you, I'm still on the fence of what does my relationship, my friendship look like with my older kiddo. With my younger ones, it's kind of funny, but with my older one, they're my bonus kiddo. So I'm like, what does
Hmm.
this dynamic look like? Um, and I can tell you this: the difference between me and their dad is that I'm a great listener.
Mm,
Tell me, I'm gonna listen. I don't care if I have no interest in what you're saying. I'm going to listen to you because it's important to you. And if it's important to you, it's important to me.
that's it.
I validate. Dang, that must be really hard. How do you feel about that? I hold healthy boundaries and I'm consistent. Hey, we're supposed to be cleaning right now. How can I support you in getting started?
Hmm.
Do we need to make a list together? Yep, I know cleaning is the worst. I actually like cleaning, but I understand most people don't like cleaning. And you're right, it is the worst. But the
Hmm.
sooner we can get this done, the sooner we can all get back to our lives.
Yeah.
I hold those boundaries and I hold them consistently. I'm not like, oh well, I guess if you don't like cleaning, I'll do it for you. No,
Mm-mm.
we're all cleaner, whatever it is, right?
Right.
Yep, I understand you need time to decompress from school, but you still have homework to do. So take about 5 more minutes, and then we got to get started on homework. I still hold those boundaries, and so they like me. They like me because I'm consistent. I validate. I show them love and understanding and empathy. And so that respect is there. That respect that we all want as parents and that
Yeah.
our kids want as well is there. And so you can have both. They don't have to live on opposite sides.
Absolutely. And kind of like when you talked about the power, like I call that power with parenting, right? So not a
Yeah.
power over, not a power under, but literally power with. Because again,
Yeah.
because you are a person, a human, I respect you. I
Yeah.
respect your feelings, right? I respect your experiences. And here's the thing, I tie it all together in one word, and that's connection.
Yes.
We talk about this, our kids liking us. Again, it's not, thank you for breaking it down, making it very clear on what it's not, right? But what it is connection. And here's what we have to remember as parents, that connection impacts our influence with our kids,
Yes.
which is why when we see kids, I mean, part of it is a development, right? They go through these different milestones, but many times when we see kids who grow older and just completely disconnect or not even care or reference a parent's advice or opinion at that point, it's because that connection, right? That foundation for connection was not established. So now our influence is not as strong. So I really try to encourage parents to see it as a sphere of influence in our
Yeah.
kids' lives. So now they feel connected to us. So now they're more likely to trust us, right? Even when it comes to our advice and our opinions. And so again, it's not like black and white. It's still some gray, it's a little mud in there, but
Yeah.
it definitely does impact how we influence them. And so that's so good. So
Yeah.
I'm hearing you name this, right? We're talking about the power with, we're talking about kids cannot learn from people who they don't like, the importance of our
Mhm.
kids feeling connected to us and liking us with those other things in place, right? The boundaries, the mutual respect, et cetera, et cetera. So if I'm a parent listening to this, where do I start?
Mm. That's a great question. I think the best, because this is right. What if the problem isn't with our kids, it's with us? You got to start with you. You have to take a step back and start with just one thing. So if you just start noticing some patterns. So maybe it's, man, every morning it feels like we're on the struggle bus. I feel like I'm yelling at my kids the first thing in the morning to get out of bed. I feel like I'm rushing. I feel like I'm amped up. I'm feeling stressed. and I'm noticing this pattern. Maybe it's, man, my kid, every time they get in the car after school, they don't want to talk to me. I asked them how their day was. They said, fine. Put their head down on their phone. They're not really talking. What do you notice? So what patterns are you noticing where you're like, I feel like this is happening all the time? And it probably isn't all the time, but it's happening more than you'd like it to, right? So what patterns are you noticing? And then I want you to think about, how am I contributing to this? How am I contributing to this? And even before that, right? I think the more important question to ask ourselves is, what am I wanting out of this? Why am I doing this in the first place? So for me, I'm not going to ask my child. I might say like, hey babe, how's your day? And they might say fine. And for me, that's okay, because I know that my kid needs a little bit of time to decompress before they open up. So if that's the case, I'm paying attention to me, and I'm not going to push them. The problem before was me. I was pushing too much. And then I was like, why aren't they talking to me? Oh, they need a little bit of time to decompress, right? And so start asking yourselves those questions. So it kind of goes back to this place where when they were babies and we're kind of playing this detective work of, why are they crying? Are they hungry? Do they have a dirty diaper? Is it because something's bothering them? We think it stops when they're babies, and it does not. That detective work still continues on into the different phases and stages of their lives. It's not over. The guessing games still continue. They just look a little different. It's no longer, are they hungry? Do they need to be clean? It's now, did something happen at school? Did they have a test today? Did someone say something? Were they fine in the morning? Have their eating habits changed, right? Like, it's asking all of these questions to try and figure out what's going on. But before that, right, you need to check yourself. You need to sit down and you need to evaluate your values. You need to evaluate what it is that you want in your relationship with your child. You need to take time to think about, what are some of the stories you tell yourself about your children and children in general, right? Like that idea of children are to be seen and not heard. Children should respect us. Children should, whatever it is, right? So those are just some general ones. Some more specific ones might be, man, my child always has a bad attitude first thing in the morning. Well, yeah, if you're yelling at them first thing in the morning, they're going to have a bad attitude, right? No one wants to wake up that way. No one wants to wake up being yelled at.
And let me just tell on myself, okay, and speak to from personal experience of that level, because like you're right, it starts with self-awareness, being able to pause and ask ourselves, like, first of all, what's happening in me? And what can I contribute, or what am I contributing to this stressful environment? So when you spoke, the first thing you talked about was that morning routine, right? And that was a realization I had to have, like, when the parent am hitting snooze and not going ahead and getting out of bed, that causes us all to have a late start to our morning. When we have a late start to our morning, it's more stressful because now we got to rush and be quicker, right? And that's the anxiety. So, but that started with me. If I am getting up at the time I know I need to get up to do all these things and make sure everyone else, that literally sets the pace of the morning. Right. And so if I want that ease, I have to make sure I'm doing my part, because it starts with me. Why I'm fussing at you for moving slow when I'm the reason you up late, And so again, that starts with me. So that's so true. And that was something I had to grow in, and still don't get it right every morning, because sometimes I still.
Honestly, that was me yesterday morning. Hit snooze way too much. And I'm like, oh my gosh, panicking. Yep. We're running late, trying to rush out the door. But it was me.
Yes. I'm grateful we are finally to the point where, like, if I still, again, am the reason, right? We're a little more chill with it. And my kids are that reminder and that accountability now to remind me to breathe. And so, but it's still a learning process, right? And that awareness, oh my gosh, that is so huge. So huge. Thank you for naming that. Anything else you want to share on that particular for the parent who is listening? If you guys are listening, if you've heard something that you want to take away, drop that in the chat and let us know. What's one of those nuggets you're taking away? Is there anything else you want to add to that, Jeri-Ashley?
Yeah, I would say get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is the most uncomfortable you will ever be in your life. Until you get comfortable with the discomfort of what this type of growth looks like, it's gonna be hard. It's hard, period, but it's gonna be even harder, because there's a lot that we have to unlearn and relearn. We have to unlearn that pride and learn how to apologize. We have to unlearn these toxic narratives of what it means to be a parent, and relearn, right, what not is the right way, but what is the best way for our kids, because every child and family dynamic is different. There is so much that we have to unlearn, that we have to acknowledge, and it is an uncomfortable process. But the sooner you lean into that discomfort, like, all right, I'm not like, I don't really love this, but I'm going to try it, right? I promise you, you are going to start to see change. And with that, get comfortable with saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I messed up. I messed up. It was my fault. We woke up late. I woke up late. Everybody was running late. All right, an apology to your teacher. You know, you're late to first period or whatever, right? Like, I am sorry. I'm sorry. It was me, right? Just, it was me.
Girl, it was me.
It was me. And next time I'm going to do something different. This is what I'm going to do different. So that way, those of you who have older kids, those kids will hold you accountable. So you just tell them, and if you want an accountability partner, they will be it. All you have to do is tell them, next time I'm going to do this. And when it doesn't happen, they're going to say, well, next time I thought you said you were going to do this. And you're like, oh.
That is,
right, I did.
That is real. And being open to receive that level of accountability, right? That is so good. And it really goes back to us just being intentional again. Like you said, first step is awareness. Yep. First step is, even if that is just checking in with ourselves and really being honest about what we're even feeling in this moment. Are we taking things personal, right? Like, just awareness, just starting with awareness. So thank you so much for that, Jeri-Ashley, because, sometimes the issue, many times, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, the issue, you guys, not our children. It really starts with us. And so I'm just so grateful that we have the space and grace to continue to grow and evolve. That's the beautiful part of this, right?
Yeah.
As we said early on, this is not for any type of guilt, any type of shame. It is the beauty of the possibility that we can continue to grow and evolve as well. And how beautiful is that for our kids to witness that? And that's why, like, when I apologize with so much joy now, because like they get to witness this growth, right? They get to see what it looks like. They get to join in, or they have a model of what it looks like, and it's so much grace and so much fulfillment in it. So thank you so much, Jeri-Ashley. Do you have any closing words before we jump into where people can follow you and anything you have coming up? Any closing words for the parents who are listening?
Yes, for those of you who are listening, I am in the process of like officially launching my landing page. But for those of you who are looking to grow in awareness and reflection, I do have a bundle of guides that I have put together for parents who are looking for that growth. So I haven't officially launched it yet, but if you are interested in ordering it, it's only $17. You get, oh my gosh, there's like, I don't know, maybe 50 plus pages of reflection prompts and things to think about and consider. DM me and I'd be more than happy to get you hooked up with that, so you can start. If you're like, I don't even know what questions to ask myself, I don't know where to start looking, I'm not sure, hit me up and I'll link you up with that, so you have a starting place to start that journey.
Yes, I love that. And is this where I can find you, Jeri the Mindful Mama?
Yes, you can. Yep, on Instagram and Facebook, TikTok. I'm most active on Instagram.
Yes. Come on, Jeri the Mindful Mama. Listen, it has been a pleasure. Anything else you have coming up, or anything else you want to share for the people who want to keep in touch?
Yeah, so I am starting, this is exclusive for mamas, so if there's any dads out there, sorry, mamas though, I am starting my next 8-week program looking at becoming a more mindful, grounded, rooted mama. So really, truly helping you find balance and ease in raising kind humans. That's kicking off in June. It's 8 weeks. And I'm so excited about this particular space, just kind of flowing from Mother's Day, a month about mamas, into supporting mamas and intentionally prioritizing themselves and experiencing a life that they deserve, and a relationship that they've been longing for with their little ones.
Yes, I love that so much. You guys be sure to check her out and follow her at Jeri the Mindful Mama on Instagram, is where she mostly hangs out. Jeri-Ashley, has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Just for not just your time, but just your heart, your passion is so evident. I'm just so grateful to officially know you and be connected to you. To have another sister out here doing this hard work, like it is such an honor. So I'm so honored to know you. Thank you for sharing your gifts and your wisdom and your talents with us today. You guys be sure to follow her. Shoot her a message for that bundle. That sounds amazing, by the way. Y'all shoot her a message for that bundle so she can get it to you. And that's all we have, you guys. Until next time, keep growing in gentleness. Y'all have a good one.